On this week's show, the Georgia Southern men continue to roll right along in the Sun Belt. And as for the women, looking pretty in pink, the Eagles with a big victory Saturday night. We'll have all that and more as we welcome you inside the Eagles Nest. And welcome inside the Eagles Nest. I'm your host, Josh Aubrey, being joined by sports editor and Georgia Southern beat writer for the Statesboro Herald, Mike Anthony. And Mike, a couple big wins for the Georgia Southern men's basketball team. For the women, they had one that maybe they should have won, got out of hand there against Arlington, but then bounced back nicely in their pretty pink uniforms to knock off Texas State. One of the most impressive outings that they've had all year, especially that first quarter where everything was going their way. Your thoughts on the women and the men? Let's begin with ladies first. How about Kip Drown's squad right now?
Well, I think that win against Texas State shows the potential that this team has, what they've been working towards. This is a team that returned 11 of 12 players from last season. They know each other. They just had to learn the system. And as you mentioned, when those shots start to fall, can build a little bit of confidence. You can get into a rhythm. These girls know how to play together, and finally everything clicked for a night. I know that there won't be days quite that easy, especially down the stretch. Still a couple of tough road trips left. The ladies, they'll be fighting for position to be one of those top 8 to get to go to New Orleans. But getting one of those 2 wins at home last weekend keeps them above water for now. Right now, they're kind of right on that bubble. So they're going to need a couple wins down the stretch. Probably going to have to win a few away from Hanner to be able to go to New Orleans.
Well, Mike, one of the things I think that was pretty evident in the Texas State game, it hasn't happened a lot. I think maybe sometimes they forget they can do it, but you have Patrice Butler 3 for 3 from behind the arc. You have Brianna Jones, who even can hit some deep shots. Of course, you've got the regular cast that can, the guards that can do that, but when your bigs can step out and do that fairly consistently, sometimes I think they forget to do it. You don't see it all the time, but when they do, that can pose a big matchup problem.
Well, when you usually think about the guys' game as people presenting matchup problems, guys who can play the 3 or the 4, can stretch people out, can hit the long shots while still being a big inside scoring threat. Usually in the women's game, you don't see as much as that. You've got your 2 or 3 shooters around the perimeter. I know that going into the season, Coach Stroud talked about how he thought one advantage that his Eagles have is their depth in the post. They've got 3 or 4 girls that can play with their back to the basket, who can muscle people down, who can hit that shot off the glass. But as you said, some of those same girls can back it up, can take their defender away out of the paint, either freeing up some space for those guards to cut through or knocking down some long shots. And when that works, you see the result. That's what happened against Texas State, and they get out to a fairly comfortable lead and an easy win.
Yeah, and Angel McGowan out there hitting a lot of threes as well. Let's get out and show you first the doubleheader from Saturday, where the Georgia Southern women had such an impressive performance, and the guys were able to hang on there at the end. Georgia Southern in all pink for Breast Cancer Awareness Saturday as they host Texas State. The Eagles with a hot start, Patrice Butler inside for 2. Later, it's Sierra Butler with a nice up and under for the layup. Texas State trying to answer with Erica May's jumper. But the Eagles in command in the first quarter. Patrice Butler dialing it up from behind the arc. She finished with 23 points, including 3 for 3 from 3. Leading the way, Angel McGowan, 24, including 3 threes herself. Back inside we go, and it's Brianna Jones with the bucket. Later, it's McGowan, the tough off-balance shot. Again, Texas State tries to stay close. Toshua Levitt for 3, but the Eagles too much, out rebounding the Bobcats 29-13. Sierra Butler 2 more. Back outside we go. Brianna Jones just inside the arc. And finally, it's McGowan with another 3-pointer as the Eagles win 78-64. To the guys' game we go, and Georgia Southern looking for their 3rd straight. This one against Texas State. First half, Devontae Boykins for the long 2. Later on the break, Mike Hughes to Tukey Brown. The Bobcats answer on the other end, Tilbury Gilder for 3. The Eagles respond. Hughes, the off-balance runner off the break. Later, it's the freshman sensation, Brown, blowing past the defense for 2 more. Eagles up 6 at the half We move to the second half. Jake Alsmiller getting the friendly roll on the three-pointer. Devontae Boykins then going strong to the rack with the lefty lay-in. Texas State making a comeback. Imani Gant with the layup. But the Eagles right back. Brown, the crossover fadeaway three. He'd have a game-high 25 points. Boykins driving in for two more. The Eagles with a 6-point lead. Hughes able to pitch in with 18, including this triple from the corner. More from Hughes as he weaves through traffic and finishes with the left hand. And finally, the speed of Brown in effect once again as the Eagles hold on to win 66-62. All right, Mike, well, missed in that was Ike Smith's big shot there towards the end. He hadn't made a three. You mentioned his shot. It does look a lot like, as you've mentioned, a throw-in in soccer, the way he chucks it up there. But, hey, he made it when he had to. And the Eagles with a big victory, winning at home, evening their record in the conference right now. And that's huge because we've mentioned how important it is to win the home games and then maybe steal a few on the road. 2 in a row at home.
And with each win now, you see this young team's confidence growing and growing. Tukey Brown, forget about being one of the best freshmen in the conference. He's probably one of the best freshmen in the country at this point, getting up near 20 points a game, having a huge weekend for the Eagles. He made most of the noise there in the Texas State game, but Coach Byington said at the end, everybody was looking at Tukey to take that shot. Texas State wasn't going to let him have an open look, and he likes the fact that his young team full of freshmen and sophomores, even guys who have missed some shots on the night, they're not afraid to take those big shots. The term he used was being comfortable with living with the consequences of whatever happened. That's the sort of confidence that you need going into these big games down the stretch, especially in the tournament, whereas we saw last season, it can come down to a young guy or maybe, as we saw last year, an older guy having to take a last shot.
Yeah, with these freshmen especially, guys like Tukey Brown, you worry sometimes that they might hit that wall because the season continues a little bit longer than what they're used to on the high school front. Tukey doesn't seem to be slowing down. He's been named the Sunbelt's Player of the Week after the performances against not only Texas State, but against Arlington as well. Looking good in that Arlington game, and Georgia Southern really in that game turned it on there in the second half and really pulled away.
Tukey Brown looking good in that game. I don't think anybody looked bad in that game, especially in the second half. UTA, they're trying to bounce back. They're without Kevin Hervey, their leading scorer. He's out with an ACL, was averaging a double-double for the season in conference play. However, the Mavericks came out, some quick passes. They broke down the Eagles' defense. Looked like they were going to give Georgia Southern a hard time, but after halftime, the Eagles come out, and while UTA was making them in the lane, Georgia Southern was making them from behind the arc. And when this Eagle team gets hot from behind the arc, there's not a team, I think, in the Sun Belt that can keep up with them. 8-9 threes there in the second half for Georgia Southern, and they end up pulling away from what's been a very good UT Arlington team, what seems like a UT Arlington team that's going to turn things around without Hervey, and it's now looking better after they went to Georgia State and gave the Panthers a whooping later on in the weekend.
Well, one person we hadn't mentioned, of course we've mentioned him all year, Mike Hughes, one of the more consistent players for Georgia Southern, had a couple of big games as well. Let's get back out and see some highlights from the UT Arlington game. Up next for the Eagles, they're on the road. They're going to Troy, a team that they beat earlier in the year. That game is Thursday night. And then Saturday they go to South Alabama, a team that beat them here at home at Hanner Fieldhouse. Well, before we go, Georgia Southern Baseball opens up the season, believe it or not, next weekend at Georgia. Got a big event coming up this weekend. Terry Pendleton there for the Evening with the All-Stars.
The Evening with the All-Stars becoming a great annual event, kind of a kickoff to the baseball season every year. Every year it seems like this staff does a great job of getting a Brave great or a local great to come in, talk to the baseball boosters. Always a lot of great prizes, either as live auction or silent auction. Always a handful of great stories from whoever the guest is. So once again, expecting that to be a great night. I plan on, was Terry Pendleton on the 93 team? I could ask him.
I do believe he was.
I asked Dale Murphy last year about what it was like on the other side, although he was already in Colorado by the time my Phillies beat the Braves in that series.
I got to bring that part up. All right. Well, that'll wrap it up for now. For Mike Anthony, I'm Josh Aubrey. Thanks for joining us. Hope to see you again next week.